am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet f
Next up, playing through the chakras.
Hope you're doing well, guys.
I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. My heart is a chakra of violet fire. My heart is the purity God desires. My heart is a chakra of violet fire. My heart is the purity God desires. My heart is a chakra of violet fire. My heart is the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. My throat chakra is a wheel of violet fire. My throat chakra is the purity God desires. My throat chakra is a wheel of violet fire. My throat chakra is the purity God desires. My throat chakra is a wheel of violet fire. My throat chakra is the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. My solar plexus is a sun of violet fire. My solar plexus is the purity God desires. My solar plexus is a sun of violet fire. My solar plexus is the purity God desires. My solar plexus is a sun of violet fire. My solar plexus is the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. My third eye is the center of violet fire. My third eye is the purity God desires. My third eye is the center of violet fire. My third eye is purity God desires. My third eye is the center of violet fire. My third eye is purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. My soul chakra is a sphere of violet fire. My soul is the purity God desires. My soul chakra is a sphere of violet fire. My soul is the purity God desires. My soul chakra is a sphere of violet fire. My soul is the purity God desires. I am the being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. My crown chakra is a lotus of violet fire. My crown chakra is the purity God desires. My crown chakra is a lotus of violet fire. My crown chakra is the purity God desires. My crown chakra is a lotus of violet fire. My crown chakra is the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. My base chakra is a fount of violet fire. My base chakra is the purity God desires. My base chakra is a fount of violet fire. My base chakra is the purity God desires. My base chakra is the fount of violet fire. My base chakra is the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I am a being of violet fire. I am the purity God desires.
Woo! 9 minutes in, guys. How you
Heart,
feeling?
Head and hand decrees.
Okay, this is the little book that I often do.
Violet fire, thou love divine, blaze within this heart of mine. Thou art mercy forever true, keep me always in tune with you. Violet fire, thou love divine, blaze within this heart of mine. Thou art mercy forever true, keep me always in tune with you. Violet fire, thou love divine, blaze within this heart of mine. Thou art mercy forever true, keep me always in tune with you. I am like thou Christ in me, set my mind forever free. Violet fire forever shine, deep within this mind of mine. God who gives my daily bread with violet fire, fill my head, till thy radiance heaven light, makes my mind a mind of light. I am like thou Christ in me, set my mind forever free. Violet fire forever shine, deep within this mind of mine. God gives my daily bread with violet fire, fill my head, till thy radiance heaven light, makes my mind a mind of light. I am like thou Christ in me, set my mind forever free. Violet fire forever shine, deep within this mind of mine. God who gives my daily bread with violet fire, fill my head, till thy radiance heaven light, makes my mind a mind of light. I am the hand of God in action, gaining victory every day. My pure soul's great satisfaction is to walk the middle way. I am the hand of God in action, gaining victory every day. My pure soul's great satisfaction is to walk the middle way. I am the hand of God in action, gaining victory every day. My pure soul's great satisfaction is to walk the middle way. Beloved, I am presence bright, roundly seal your tube of light. From ascended master flame, call forth now in God's own name. Let it keep my temple free from all discord sent to me. I am calling forth violet fire to blaze and transmute all desire, keeping on in freedom's name till I am one with the violet flame. Beloved, I am presence bright, roundly seal your tube of light. From ascended master flame, call forth now in God's own name. Let it keep my temple free from all discord sent to me. I am calling forth violet fire to blaze and transmute all desire, keeping on in freedom's name. Beloved, I am presence bright, roundly seal your tube of light. From ascended master flame, call forth now in God's own name. Let it keep my temple free from all discord sent to me. I am calling forth violet fire to blaze and transmute all desire, keeping on in freedom's name till I am one with the violet flame. I am forgiveness acting here, casting out all doubt and fear, setting men forever free with wings of cosmic victory. I am calling in full power for forgiveness every hour to all life in every place. I look for forgiving grace. I am forgiveness acting here, casting out all doubt and fear, setting men forever free with wings of cosmic victory. I am calling in full power for forgiveness every hour to all life in every place. I flood forth forgiving grace. I am forgiveness acting here, casting out all doubt and fear, setting men forever free with wings of cosmic victory. I am calling in full power for forgiveness every hour to all life in every place. I flood forth forgiving grace. I am free from fear and doubt, casting want and misery out, knowing now all good supply ever comes from realms on high. I am the hand of God's own fortune, flooding forth the treasures of life, now receiving full abundance to supply each need of life. I am free from fear and doubt, casting want and misery out, knowing now all good supply ever comes from realms on high. I am the hand of God's own fortune, flooding forth the treasures of life, now receiving full abundance to supply each need of life. I am free from fear and doubt, casting want and misery out, knowing now all good supply ever comes from realms on high. I am the hand of God's own fortune, flooding forth the treasures of life, now receiving full abundance to supply each need of life. I am life of God direction, blaze I light of truth in me, Focus here, all God's perfection, from all discord set me free. Make and keep me anchored ever in the justice of thy plan. I am the presence of perfection, living the life of God in man. I am life of God, direction, blaze thy light of truth in me. Focus here, all God's perfection, from all discord set me free. Make and keep me anchored ever in the justice of thy plan. I am the presence of perfection, living the life of God in man. I am life of God, direction, blaze thy light of truth in me. Focus here, all God's perfection, from all discord set me free. Make and keep me anchored ever in the justice of thy plan. I am the presence of perfection, living the life of God in man. I am changing all my garments, old ones for the bright new day. With the sun of understanding, I am shining all the way. I am light within, without. I am light is all about. Fill me, free me, glorify me, seal me, heal me, purify me. Until transfigured they describe me. I am shining like the sun. I am shining like the sun. I am changing all my garments, old ones for the bright new day. With the sun of understanding, I am shining all the way. I am light within, without. I am light is all about. Fill me, free me, glorify me, seal me, heal me, purify me. Until transfigured they describe me. I am shining like the sun. I am shining like the sun. I am changing all my garments, old ones for the bright new day. With the sun of understanding, I am shining all the way. I am light within, without. I am light is all about. Fill me, free me, glorify me, seal me, heal me, purify me. Until transfigured they describe me. I am shining like the sun. I am shining like the sun. I am the flame of resurrection, blazing God's pure light through me. Now I am raising every atom, from every shadow I am free. I am the light of God's full presence, I am living ever free. Now the flame of life eternal rises up to victory. I am the flame of resurrection, blazing God's pure light through me. Now I am raising every atom, from every shadow I am free. I am the light of God's full presence, I am living ever free. Now the flame of life eternal rises up to victory. I am the flame of resurrection, blazing God's pure light through me. Now I am raising every atom, from every shadow I am free. I am the light of God's full presence, I am living ever free. Now the flame of life eternal rises up to victory. I am ascension light, victory flowing free, all of good, one at last for all eternity. I am light, all weights are gone, and into the air I raise. To all I pour with full God power my wondrous song of praise. All hail, I am the living Christ, the ever-loving one. Ascended now with full God power, I am a blazing sun. I am ascension light, victory flowing free, all of good, one at last for all eternity. I am light, all weights are gone, and into the air I raise. To all I pour with full God power my wondrous song of praise. All hail, I am the living Christ, the ever-loving one. Ascended now with full God power, I am a blazing sun. I am ascension light, victory flowing free, all of good, one at last for all eternity. I am light, all weights are gone, and into the air I raise. To all I pour with full God power my wondrous song of praise. All hail, I am the living Christ, the ever-loving one. Ascended now with full God power, I am a blazing sun.
Still getting over my handstands.
I am presence, thou art
This
master.
is where we get.
I am presence, thou art master. I am presence, clear the way. Let thy light and all thy power take possession here this hour. Charge of victory's mastery, blaze the lightning, blaze thy substance into this thy form descend. Thy perfection and its glory shall blaze forth and transcend. I am presence, thou art master. I am presence, clear the way. Let thy light and all thy power take possession here this hour. Charge with victory's mastery, blaze the lightning, blaze thy substance into this thy form descend. Thy perfection and its glory shall blaze forth and transcend. I am presence, thou art master. I am presence, clear the way. Let thy light and all thy power take possession here this hour. Charge with victory's mastery, blaze the lightning, blaze thy substance into this thy form descend. Thy perfection and its glory shall blaze forth and earth transcend. I am presence, thou art master. I am presence, clear the way. Let thy light and all thy power take possession here this hour. Charged with victory's mastery, blaze with lightning, blaze that substance into this life form descend. That perfection and its glory shall blaze forth and earth transcend. I am presence, thou art master, I am presence, clear away. Let thy light and all thy power take possession here this hour. Charged with victory's mastery, blaze with lightning, blaze that substance into this life form descend. That perfection and its glory shall blaze forth and earth transcend. Violet fire.
We'll do that. I am present one more time.
I am presence, thou art master, I am presence, clear away. Let thy light and all thy power take possession here this hour. Charged with victory's mastery, blaze with lightning, blaze thy substance into this thy form descend. That perfection and its glory shall blaze forth and earth transcend. I am presence, thou art master, I am presence, clear away. Let thy light and all thy power take possession here this hour. Charged with victory's mastery, blaze with lightning, blaze thy substance into this thy form descend. That perfection and its glory shall blaze forth and earth transcend. I am presence, thou art master, I am presence, clear away. Let thy light and all thy power take possession here this hour. Charged with victory's mastery, blaze with lightning, blaze thy substance into this thy form descend. That perfection and its glory shall blaze forth and earth transcend. I am presence, thou art master, I am presence, clear away. Let thy light and all thy power take possession here this hour. Charged with victory's mastery, blaze with lightning, blaze thy substance into this thy form descend. That perfection and its glory shall blaze forth and earth transcend. I am presence, thou art master, I am presence, clear away. Let thy light and all thy power take possession here this hour. Charged with victory's mastery, blaze with lightning, blaze thy substance into this thy form descend. That perfection and its glory shall blaze forth and earth transcend.
Get used to it over time. You can go faster and faster. And infuse it with more light.
Michael, cut me free. Oh, sorry. Traveling protection first.
Lord Michael before, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael, wherever I go. I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here. Lord Michael before, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael, wherever I go. I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here. Lord Michael before, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael, wherever I go. I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here. Lord Michael before, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael, wherever I go. I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here. Lord Michael before, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael, wherever I go. I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here. Lord Michael before, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael, wherever I go. I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here. Lord Michael before, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael, wherever I go. I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here. Lord Michael before, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael, wherever I go. I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here. Lord Michael before, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael, wherever I go. I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here, I am his love protecting here.
Now we'll do Lord Michael, cut me free.
In the name of the beloved, mighty, victorious presence of God, I am in me, my very own beloved, holy Christ self, holy Christ selves of all mankind, beloved Archangel Michael, beloved Lanello, the entire spirit of the great white brotherhood in the world mother. Elemental life, fire, air, water, and earth, I decree. Lord Michael, I call unto thee, will thy sword of the flame, and now let me free. Blaze thy power, protection now into my world, thy banner of faith above me unfurl. Transcendent blue lightning, thou flash to my soul, I am by God's mercy made radiant and whole. Lord Michael, I love thee, I do, with all thy great faith, my being in you. Blaze thy power, protection now into my world, thy banner of faith above me unfurl. Transcendent blue lightning, thou flash to my soul, I am by God's mercy made radiant and whole. Lord Michael, and legions of blue, come seal me now, keep me faithful and true. Blaze thy power, protection now into my world, thy banner of faith above me unfurl. Transcendent blue lightning, thou flash to my soul, I am by God's mercy made radiant and whole. I am in thy blue flame now full charged and blessed, I am now in Michael's blue flame armor dressed. I am with thy blue flame now full charged and blessed, I am now in Michael's blue flame armor dressed. I am with thy blue flame now full charged and blessed, I am now in Michael's blue flame armor dressed. Lord Michael, I call unto thee, will thy sword of blue flame, and now let me free. Blaze thy power, protection now into my world, thy banner of faith above me unfurl. Transcendent blue lightning, thou flash to my soul, I am by God's mercy made radiant and whole. Lord Michael, I love thee, I do, with all thy great faith, my being in you. Blaze thy power, protection now into my world, thy banner of faith above me unfurl. Transcendent blue lightning, thou flash to my soul, I am by God's mercy made radiant and whole. Lord Michael, and legions of blue, come seal me now, keep me faithful and true. Blaze thy power, protection now into my world, thy banner of faith above me unfurl. Transcendent blue lightning, thou flash to my soul, I am by God's mercy made radiant and whole. I am in thy blue flame now full charged and blessed, I am now in Michael's blue flame armor dressed. I am in thy blue flame now full charged and blessed, I am now in Michael's blue flame armor dressed. I am with thy blue flame now full charged and blessed, I am now in Michael's blue flame armor dressed. Lord Michael, I call unto thee, will thy sword of the flame, and now let me free. Blaze thy power, protection now into my world, thy banner of faith above me unfurl. Transcendent blue lightning, thou flash to my soul, I am by God's mercy made radiant and whole. Lord Michael, I love thee, I do, with all thy great faith, my being in you. Blaze thy power, protection now into my world, thy banner of faith above me unfurl. Transcendent blue lightning, thou flash to my soul, I am by God's mercy made radiant and whole. Lord Michael, and legions of blue, come seal me now, keep me faithful and true. Blaze thy power, protection now into my world, thy banner of faith above me unfurl. Transcendent blue lightning, thou flash to my soul, I am by God's mercy made radiant and whole. I am in thy blue flame now full charged and blessed, I am now in Michael's blue flame armor dressed. I am in thy blue flame now full charged and blessed, I am now in Michael's blue flame armor dressed. I am in thy blue flame now full charged and blessed, I am now in Michael's blue flame armor dressed. And in full faith I consciously accept this manifest. And in full faith I consciously accept this manifest. And in full faith I consciously accept this manifest. Right here and now with full power, eternally sustained, all powerfully active, ever expanding and world enfolding, until all are wholly ascended in the light and free. Beloved I am, beloved I am, beloved I am.
Michael is of the blue ray.
Okay, our discourse, part 2,
Ooh,
developing ascended master love.
the story.
Our own human is the first one we must deal with rather than deal with someone else's human. And I'm going to tell you at this point exactly what happens in the student body in almost every religion, in almost every organization, including our own, is that everybody, practically everybody that is, begins to practice some form of criticism or condemnation or judgment against someone else's human before they start taking care of their own. you see. This is very, very natural now. But if we take care of our own human first, our very attitude will be so charged with ascended master love that other people near us will feel that this is not an action of our human, but they'll feel that it is an action of the universal law and the universal law of love. And therefore, you'll get far less resistance or resentment from people if you're acting from that plane, you see. And you will be developing ascended master love and retaining it because your motive is what transfigures you. I'm going to tell you something that may sound a little unpleasant, but it's important. There are a lot of people in positions such as I am in right now. They're lecturers, ministers, speakers, teachers, and even chief laymen in many religions that enjoy correcting other people. They get a charge out of finding flaws in people. They're happy about it. If you didn't have some sort of fault that they could pick on, they wouldn't like you too well. They like to correct you. And they look for these things because it gives them an opportunity. And this is wrong motivation to begin with, because it is deriving pleasure from evil. And it is completely an enemy of developing ascended master love. So right motive is the feeling of being the great giver to the God who is the greatest giver. In other words, you recognize your I am presence in this development as the greatest giver that has ever existed or ever will exist, now and forever. And then you determine that you are going to be just as great a giver to God of yourself as he is of himself to you. And this creates a divine balance, because God will never be outdone by you. And the more that you give of your love to him, the more he is in debt to you, and he pays his debt so promptly that you just keep right on gaining his love, which is infinite, in your finite state. And he keeps on getting more of you. And what he does with it is he changes it into more of him and sends it back to you. And then you see, you function from the plane of right motive, and that's the ascended master motive. Your motive then, and it's really tied with motor, isn't it? Motor and motive. It is the force that drives you. The force that drives you then is divine love. In all of your doing, with all of thy getting, get understanding. And in this case, with all of thy getting of God, see that you give this same spirit of God to others that are your brothers. And this motive, it will change the whole picture. I have functioned from this motive, I'll be frank with you. And I have walked up to people functioning from the divine motive, and I have found that they are still people that will become angry when you correct them, even though you are functioning from the divine motive. And this is a case of where you have to love yourself properly. You cannot be swayed by the human of any other person at all. But that doesn't mean that you should be aloof or rejoice in the fact that the individual has not responded properly to you or to your ministration. God does not. So in developing love for God, you must be as God is. There was a man, I think his name was Shelton, a minister that lived many years ago, and he wrote a book. I think it was called In His Steps, if I recall correctly. And one of the mottos of the book was, what would Jesus do? And the men, the businessmen, in this story, pasted this motto or engraved this motto in their offices, and everything that they did, the mayor of the town, when he decided to make a decision, he would ask himself, what would Jesus do? And then he'd think very carefully as to what Jesus would do if he were holding the same job down that this man had. And the whole town was transformed by that one slogan, what would Jesus do? Now, Jesus is one of many ascended masters. And so there's nothing wrong with saying, what would the ascended masters do when you come to deal with any situation? And in the development of ascended master love, you must ask yourself, how would the masters develop their ascended master love? How do they develop ascended master love themselves? Because the masters are still developing it. They have told us themselves that God is infinite. They have told us that after the ascension that they still go on and on and on, transcending whatever they have of attainment and attunement. Therefore, we have to admit that there is infinite possibility. So the question is a worthy one. How do the masters develop ascended master love? And now we come to the prime point here, and that is the activation of right vision. Vision has been referred to again and again. Without vision, the people perish. Now, the wrong concepts about the world and about nature and about one another can cut us off so that we are living in a world of our own making. We are not facing reality at all. Now, I know that I have stood on lecture platforms here and there in different parts of the world. And I know that I have gone with great love into cities where I have prayed valiantly for the people by God's grace. And I know with all my heart that I have sought earnestly to do God's will for different people. And I have had in the audience occasionally, quite rarely, but occasionally, people who have said that they had never seen anyone that came closer to resembling the devil in embodiment than I did. The reason I'm telling you that is to show you that this was the definite opinion of one person in one city. Now then, I have also had them where they glorified me and singled out some member of the audience or someone that was associated with the activity or some other religious leader and came to me and said that they were the devil in embodiment. Well, I have checked into many of these conditions quite closely, and I have found out that there are a lot more good people that are trying to do well than there are people that are trying to do ill. And most of the people who do ill are misguided people. But the fact remains that they have the wrong vision. And therefore, it is important that we get the correct vision about the masters in order to develop the love that the masters had. One of the qualities that many people admire in the masters is their domination, supposedly, over outer conditions. I'm supposed to walk over here, and I just disappear in a puff of smoke. This is what we call the sense of the miraculous. They feel that the masters could do that. The masters could go over here and disappear, and reappear at will. And they are in love with this idea for themselves because their imagination is stimulated by it. Perhaps when they were little children, they played at this game. And I'll go over here and disappear. And it gave them a feeling of elation, but it's an egotistical feeling. I know that I shunned this attitude for many years. In fact, if I may be permitted this reference, I didn't know who I was in a previous embodiment when I started my studies under the Master's direction. I had no knowledge of any of my embodiments at all. And so I said, the master one time, I said, "You've never told me who I was. I don't know anything about my past life. And I'm not going to ask you to tell me. When you get ready to tell me, you will. And if you never tell me, I'll consider perhaps it's a wise thing, or you would have told me." And I just simply dismissed it from my mind, and I left it in God's hands. I did not probe it. And then one day, the master began to reveal one embodiment. And I was rather pleased. And I thought, well, that's really amazing. Very amazing. Well, then he revealed another one. And you know, in a very short space of time, I had 7 or 8 embodiments revealed. But you know, at the time he revealed it, it didn't make too much difference. I had outgrown the idea of that as being too important. And I had gone on to other ideas. And I think the vision that I held was very important for me as I look back over it now. The fact that I was willing to go on, whether or not the master pleased my human by revealing something that would make me feel that I had been someone either important or unimportant, famous or infamous. You know, one is never sure whether they were incarcerated in the Bastille or whether they were walking along through the wheat fields with the master. We all like to feel somehow or other that we were on the master's side, not on Pilate's legion's side, or perhaps the centurion who drove the nails through his hand. We don't want to see that kind of picture. Yet certainly that kind of a person needs salvation, don't they? They need it worse than the people who were walking alongside of him. And God wants them to have it. So perhaps, however, it would be a good thing in the moral climate in which we live, which has exterior righteousness emblazoned in their being, but feels that what they can get away with is all right. Perhaps it would be just as well then if we didn't know all of our past embodiments, especially the infamous ones, because if people knew that we were not someone that was good or beautiful or famous, they probably wouldn't feel too kindly. How would you like the idea of Judas Iscariot sitting in here? Some people would be very uncomfortable. Of course, they wouldn't mind at all if St. Peter was embodied in the flesh and sitting here. They might think that would be fine, you see. So what we must do is get away from our changing person in developing ascended master love. And this does not mean cruelty. It does not mean the impersonality that is cold or unthinking or unfeeling. It means a dedication to a higher image of ourselves. To develop a higher image of ourselves is to open the door for ascended master love. And we cannot mold it in the contemporary image of our friend. We cannot mold it in the contemporary image of even the ascended masters in past embodiments before their ascension, because they made a few mistakes. In fact, Jesus himself told me, he said that if he had it to do over again, he would not have used the thongs in the temple and kicked over their tables. He would have spoken out, but he admitted to me that there had been a certain righteous indignation in his being at the time, which prompted him to do it. He quoted to me one of the old scriptures. He said, "The zeal of thine house hath eaten me up." He was zealous for God. But he said, could I recommend today that you who follow after me should go out into the world and kick over these people's tables and overturn them? If you did, you would be incarcerated in prison and you would not be able to go on. And he said he got away with it in his day because of the followers he had. And the moral code and the code of that day was a little different than it is today. He was revered as a great rabbi, a great teacher, and he got away with it. Today, of course, Jesus would have been locked up in Queens Jail or in Bellevue in New York if he'd gone down the streets of the boroughs there and started kicking in the established business places. I remember I was with Elizabeth one time up toward Rochester, New York, and I saw a car dealership up there that is occupying a church. They had taken over a church building, steeple and all. I think the bell was even in there. And they had on the church lawn huge signs for the car agency. And I said to Elizabeth, I said, this is one of the times I wish that I had the power to disappear. Because if I could, I'd go in there and I'd start kicking things around in there. And I'd tell them, you've made my father's house a house of merchandise. And then I said I'd disappear afterward. Because I wouldn't dare, I said, to have them after me because they'd lock me up. And this is true. You couldn't get away with it today. But the master showed me that he himself would not recommend this type of conduct today. Let all things be done decently and in order. Doesn't mean you can't abhor the things that are evil. Doesn't mean you can't speak out against it, but you have to do it in a proper manner, in what we call a Christ-like manner. Without vision, the people perish. We must be transcendental about this. The masters will be the first to admit that crudities of the past were refinements of the past. In other words, today we would consider some things crude, and yet they were the refinements of that age. Some of the refinements of today will become crudities of a future age, perhaps. We must remember then that in developing ascended master love, the vision must transcend itself. And it is not then just a feeling of good, but it does produce a feeling of good. It really does. But it must be more than the feeling. It must be a tie to the present in action through us. It must be a conscious tie, because that enhances it all. But we must understand what the presence would do. We ought not to be blind to what the presence would do. We must call for a revelation of the presence. I remember one time when this organization first started, I said to Master Moria, I said, if only I had $1 million. If only I had 10 or 15 people that I could depend on the staff. If I only had this or had that, oh, we do wonders. I want to tell you something. I have learned that the mere acquisition of dollars in itself is not nearly as important as learning how to spend that money to get the best results with the money that you have. And the master started me out with pennies. And then the pennies became dollars, the dollars became tens, and the tens became hundreds, and the hundreds became thousands to be used for his work. I would not have known how to handle it at the beginning. I wouldn't have known what to have purchased. My sense of values would have been wrong. And I've learned an awful lot over the past few years. When a dollar should be spent for advertising. How you can use it wisely. For example, take this property at Beacon's Head. This very house here. We would spend 3 times what we're spending for this house if we were to go out and have Elizabeth and I live separately, as a lot of pastors do, live in our own house, and then have another building for the church, and then have another building for the printing press somewhere, an office, and then have another building for the house of staff, and have them living off somewhere else separately. We effect a tremendous savings. In fact, it makes it possible. And we have a much better place here, you see. So wisdom comes in many ways. And also the people. I would not have known what to do with the people. It's a very strange thing. But you take the development of a business form, a record, the record-keeping parts of an organization like ours. This is fantastic. You can ask our staff. They'll tell you that it takes years to develop a certain system. These things are valuable factors of anything, even God's business. And it takes time. And therefore, the development of ascended master love takes time. But that's all we have. We have eternity. And we might as well start right and keep on going right. And one of the things that helps then to develop ascended master love is a sense of peace about it all, not a sense of flurry and hurry. But don't let that peace become the kind of thing that some people do. Now, little Sean was taught by Tom Miller to say the slogan of the year, peace with honor. So he came down to have his dinner the other day and sat there, and his mother was serving peas, and he looked at them and he says, peas with honor? So you see, you can actually have a certain amount of savoir-faire on a thing like that. You can even have your peas with honor. You can develop ascended master love about all these different things and be right motivated, not wrong motivated. There's a right way and there's a wrong way to do it all. And I'm sure that God will speak in the heart to us if our motives are pure. So let's have peace about it all, but let not that peace become the type of peace that is complacency. Let's not be complacent and say, well, I've always done it this way. I talked to a man the other day who is connected with an organization that he knows. At the time that he spoke to me, he knew it. He said he knew it was tied to the false hierarchy. They were imitating the ascended master, but they were not practicing it. And I said to him, why in the name of God do you stay in anything like this when you know what we are standing for? Well, he says, I started with them. And I don't like the idea of change. Well, there's going to be an awful lot of changes wrought inside of all of us before we attain perfection, unless we're already perfect. Now, if you're already perfect, and I'm already perfect, we don't need any changes. You can't change perfection to anything higher than perfection. You might be able to have divine transcendentalism. God may improve himself, in other words. But at the same time, you can't improve once you get up there to your ascension. You can't improve on that. And we're not up there yet. We're down here. Whether we're here to teach and we're already perfect, but we're just teaching perfection. That's the only reason we're here. We all like to think that, you know. We like to say, well, I'm one of the guardian spirits, you know, that are down here. Everyone wants to be like at the masked Halloween ball that they had in Chicago, called a reincarnation party. Everyone came dressed as they were in their last incarnation. They were all kings and queens. There was no common people there at all. But let's face it, we're not kings and queens, and we're not all knaves. We have very, very splendid people in the activity, but we must learn to face the reality of ourselves. We must learn to capture the divine vision of what we shall be. I think it was St. Paul that said, now we see through a glass darkly, but then we shall see face to face. Now we know in part, but then shall we know even as we are known. And it is important to realize that the then, T-H-E-N, then shall we know, is the key. And it also can be asked as a question, when? Then or when? See? When is the then, in other words, that this is going to happen? Now, of course, right now. The eternal now, that is the same yesterday, today, and forever. The divine image, the magic of the I am presence. And you, as children of God, must capture the vision of what divine love is, and then outpicture what you see. This is going to change. It won't all be understood at once. The masters have admitted that understanding is evolved. And what does evolve mean? It means E for energy, and this is almost always true universally. E for energy, and volve from the revolve. It means to turn. Energy to turn. In this case, it is energy to return back to God from whence you came. It is the evolvement, the evolution, the turning of the soul within the field of energy so that it is moving forward toward the goal appointed by Almighty God. And you can't be what you can't see. If you can't see God, you can't be God. Therefore, the whole thing is the Vision, Vision. See, the victorious Son. To realize that you are the son of victory rather than the son of defeat. To realize that your purpose is the purpose we stated first. The purpose of ascended master love. That is your purpose. Be specific. Make yourself identify with the purpose. Today, people identify with ethnic groups. They identify with creed. They identify with race. They identify with family and circumstance, poverty and wealth. They identify with even feelings of fear or feelings of false security. I don't know if you know it or not, but there's a lot of cults today in the religious field that actually encourage people to become ostriches. They want you to keep your head down in the sand, and you say over and over, you affirm there is no other reality but this or that, you see. We are 100% in favor of affirming divine reality, but you have to have the discrimination that Christ had himself when he looked at the fig tree that was barren, and he said, let no man eat of thee anymore, ever again. If you can't have discrimination to know the difference between good and evil, how in the world are you ever going to eschew evil and cleave to that which is good? You have to know in yourself and in other people what is good and what is evil. Otherwise, you might join the mescaline cult. Maybe you'll turn around and start taking some of these drugs that are going to give you hallucinations of floating around in the Mayan realm down South America, floating around having visions and psychic experiences and beautiful colors. You know, they don't tell you about all the other side effects and the changes in personality. I talked with a woman out in the West, and she said, everything is good. I said, yes. And then she went on to cite some more, and she said, that's good. And I said, yes. And reminded me very much of the story I heard several years ago about the Chinese and Japanese having a war, and how the Chinaman was in his laundry there, and the Jap came in and said, we had a big battle last night. Big battle. He said, we killed 4 Chinese for every Jap that was killed. Don't you think that's wonderful for us? Chinaman said, yes. Very wonderful. A few weeks later, he came in with his shirts again. We had a big battle. We killed 2 Chinese. Or 3. I think it was 3 that time. Hey, don't you think that's good? Yes, pretty good, pretty good. Came in a little later, he says, we killed 2 Chinese, he said, for every single Jap that was killed. Don't you think that's good? Yes, he says, with a big wide grin. Very good, he says, pretty soon no more Japanese. And that's the way it is with some of these people, you see. They try to create the illusion that everything is good. This woman told me, after I'd had a very galling experience, it was a case of being invited to a party where I was supposed to be honored because of the work I'm doing for the masters. And I found that instead of being honored, that I was being dishonored by attempts to involve me in human argument. And I was asked questions which I tried to avoid about other people and other organizations that I did not care to discuss. And then I was condemned for it, and the person came back to me and said, well, I think that's good. I think it's wonderful. Well, I said, I don't think anything that is discordant is wonderful. I said, I think everything should be handled with God control and with divine love. And this is exactly what I'm talking about today, is developing divine love. And I think if you practice divine love, there's something in your feeling world, if you really practice divine love, that you're a different person. than those who just function from the plane of ego or ideation, because they always feel that they're the doer, you see. And this is another thing in developing divine love.
And we'll have the completion of that lecture next week in part 3. Our closing song this evening will be 799. I am the violet flame.
Beautiful.
And that's our beginner class for this week.
Thank you,
Thank
Michael.
you all for joining me. For those who are staying on to the advanced class, we're going to have a short intermission, 3 or 4 minutes. I'm going to play Mozart while I get set up for this class.
Well, we can listen to Mozart as we wrap up today and say, I actually spoke today at the rally that I went to find warriors, other ones who are willing to take a stand for what is right and who understand the sight that we see now is not okay, and it is not in our greatest and highest good, and it does not come from a place of divine love or divine control, but instead very much man control and ego and destruction and feeding into the draconian war system that would have us forget our true nature, which is part of this whole transhumanism movement that is confusing our children, our future generation, of their own sexuality. Because if you don't know that basic, fundamental aspect of your identity, whether you are what you appear to be or whether you are something else, how can you possibly have faith in anything else or trust. So that was one of the lessons that I learned today. And I say the other part was at 3 o'clock this morning, after having been told of this rally, which I did not intend to go to. I woke up at 3 o'clock and realized I needed to go and see if I could speak. And I needed to go and connect with other people who understand that this is about so much more than the man or woman that we see on the screen, the propaganda machines that are the Nazi backup plan in case they didn't win the war militarily. And that then is when we realize Nazi and not seeing similar. This music, Mozart, is a reflection of the creative power of sound and how it can truly transform much. And the song of all six heavens was not only heard but seen. The vision of Isaiah, 2nd century Jewish Christian text, was the page I flipped to after today's dictation about vision, interestingly enough. So,
Okay, we are ready to go here.
have fun. They're ready to go. So am I. So I hope that this was useful to you. And if you're tuning in late, then please do go back and check out the decrees that are there to help you invoke the violet flame to transmute your own karma, and then also the karma of the collective. Before this, I will also mention that I was seeing videos. People send me a lot of things, as I'm sure they do you too. And they were sending me the videos of those who are suffering from ramifications of the experimental gene therapy. And I was speaking with a nurse last night who has colleagues also suffering from their choice to listen and do what they were told that is not in anyone's best interest other than those who would have humanity's population be decreased for the sake of the few at the expense of the many, as per the Sustainability Act of Agenda 21. Please understand that the violet flame was gifted to man for us to be able to burn away the karma from this life, past lives, and collectively. And we need to use it, and it can actually be used to transmute whatever is infused into our systems, if injected voluntarily or not. We have got to use the spiritual tools that help us transmute that which is not of the greatest and highest, so that we can truly get back to our godly nature. And the violet flame is a tool. So we're going to put together, Michael doesn't know this yet, but we're going to be doing a summit for those who have been injured and who are open to having a decree practice that can help in transmuting. Will get you set up. I've just been introduced to the masters and their teachings with the decrees over the last year, and my practice wasn't consistent until recently, when I finally understood that we're here to ascend and we only have to transmute 51% of our karma to do it, to be like either of them or any others who came before and left the 3D matrix behind in order to ascend and move through the Christ consciousness in between us and our I am that I am presence, which is the picture of God we each carry with us, as per the chart of the divine presence that was as the focal point during Mark's dictation. So all of that is a lot of information, but in the scheme of things, what we have to do is take that information and make it practical. and understand that as human beings who are creatures of comfort by nature, we do not move until we have a sense of certainty about what we're moving towards or away from. And right now, we need to just band together. And as I said on the stage at the assembly, the lawful assembly of ones who are understanding the need to connect and unite and get all on board in this fight for humanity's future. That I don't remember what I said in this moment. It is just the point that I am now understanding the importance of legalities versus lawfulness. And to say gathering is legalese that will get you incriminated, but to say assembly instead means that we are being lawful, because it is when we assemble so we can constructively communicate that we are able to do what I said on the stage, which is drop the walls on all of the boxes that we have previously put God into, whichever creator you believe in, or also the movements that are keeping us distracted and separate from one another. We just need to bring all of those together, which is why I got myself on the stage today, and why I was woken up at 3 a.m. to say, go and see if you can get on stage and share your message and have Peaceful Inner Warriors United become where people understand we can gather and do what's right in the fight for humanity. So that was my day. It's 8:11, which is a time of new beginnings. I always enjoy doing a little card pull. So I'm gonna do this for myself and also for you who watches back and sticks around until this point. Whatever is the card we need to know for this coming week. What is that? We've got a few. Watching the clouds. Lie back, rest, and relax, for we must enjoy the journey on the wandering path. To uncover the treasure beneath the surface lies great bounty if we are willing to go within to get back to our godly nature. Breaking trail. A breakthrough is at hand, which is why I listened to the command that I was given that woke me, and I said, okay. So I wrote the email, and if you're not subscribed to my email list at ljeh.ca, then please do subscribe so then I can communicate with you too. And I've got so many hack attempts daily. I've had more than 14 by the time I got home from the rally trying to break in. So it's absolutely crazy, which is different from what I'm used to, because before I wasn't a threat to the system. And now that I'm speaking up and standing and gaining traction on my YouTube channel, which I would appreciate if you subscribe to, because if you do, then when I get to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm at over 800 now, then I can actually go live on my mobile. So that opens up a lot of opportunity for you to be able to be part of more. But we have to be grounded. So go deep and explore your roots. Interestingly, Mark in the dictation had said about, that curiosity about who we were in the past life and wanting it to be someone significant. And it's just like, whether you were or whether you weren't, you're here now to be significant. You only get this life once. So let's make the most of it, and let us be willing to do it together and use nature for us to get grounded. Answering the call, the time is now. And it's previously, I was not embodying peace because I was in the process and I was focused on that process. And I feel like I've been making shifts because I've been losing that need for speed. And I used to feel like it was like the white rabbit with the clock in Alice in Wonderland saying, it's time, it's time, it's time, it's time. And that urgency is now just, it's time. You don't need to repeat it. It just is. And so this is when we choose our path and we know that all is possible. And at the foundation is the view from above. Get the big picture. And tonight's dictation was about vision. So I can't even tell you how perfect that is. Blessings are showering into your life. And this also was where I cut through to. So, wise leader, you are a beacon for others. That be both me, because I am the one that is your mirror, but you too, my friend, must be the leader to you, because it is then that we can do what is required in order for us to go higher. A great adventure is ahead of us. Take a risk and venture forward, regardless of whether you know all the steps. We can overcome anything, truly. So I hope that that serves you. Once again, wise leader, you are a wise leader to those who look to you. And we have to understand the law of 250. The law of 250 says that every single one of us has a circle of influence of around 250 people who like, know, trust us. Some more, some less. But the premise is to say that we must first lead ourselves to connect, and not from an egoic place, but from the divine space from which we came and will return to, and are part of the whole time when we drop those walls that used to keep our movements and our belief systems, the BS, separate. And instead, those walls then become the bridge that help us come home to ourselves and our heart center, the way we came here to do. And I hope that for you. I wish that for you. And I'm here for you, which is why I shared this broadcast, even though I just got out of the shower or out of the bath and came down and wasn't quite sure whether I would, but crossing bridges. It's time for healing, connecting, mending, and releasing. All in flow. Please know that truly we must cross these bridges, and to use those walls that used to keep us safely separate to ascend the mountain of awareness. Ascension is like climbing a mountain, and it's like you get to one peak and then it's like, oh, I'm finally here. And then you look up and there's more, because it's never ending. That's what Mark said in his dictation. Keep going forward and let the voyage of the heart be how love flows through you and to you. You are so supported. You are so loved. And I am so grateful that you took the time to be with me tonight. And if you were at the rally earlier today, wise leader, know that the heart of the leader, this one is the third time it came up. So, wow. Desert passage. Trust there's a divine plan, and know that our plan and the divine plan do not have the same timelines. But nonetheless, when we are going through thus, we must know who and whose we truly are. And so I thank you for stepping into unknown territory with me, for you are exactly where you need to be. And with that, I will bid you adieu for this evening. Awesome to have connected with you tonight, and I appreciate your support. Do subscribe, LJEH or LJE Hamilton on YouTube as well. Really appreciate that subscription, and the subscription to my emails on ljeh.ca, also helpful, because then if we get banned off of platforms as we step up, or I step up in a bigger way, I become a threat to the system, and then we just say valiant courage, take action with passion. Let us trust that if we are willing to go when we are called, we will be protected. Grace and gratitude. Through gratitude, joy expands. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And have a great night. Toodaloo. And please do share with somebody who could use the decrees that infuse the energies with goodness and godliness and all things that you truly are. And you can go back and listen many times. The dictation was about vision by Mark Prophet. And then we did some card pulling, and I shared about the rally that I took a risk in order to go to, and then asked, how do you get on stage? And they said, well, you can go. Because I'd had a conversation previously to say, my intention for showing up is to gather the leaders, the ones that are willing to take a stand. And so we must have grace and courage and gratitude, because gratitude is the elevator in the high rise of emotional awareness that takes us to our next level. I hope you have a great night. Thank you. Toodaloo.